Hello, biology world. Purpose of this video is to give students that missed class when we were taking notes on section 3-3 an opportunity to take the notes. Also, sometimes I go a little bit too fast. And for the people that are handwriting, maybe they just need to finish up a few of their note items. And that's the purpose of this video. Section 3-3 talks about cycling of matter, walks you through carbon cycle, nitrogen cycle, water cycle. Phosphorus cycle isn't in the notes, if I'm not mistaken, but is also an important cycle. All right, talking about a little bit about nutrients as well. Okay, so remember, if you are doing this as an electronic document, a Google Doc, you're going to need, we're starting at 20 and we're ending at 27, so you're going to need 8 rows, 2 columns. For everybody that's doing it by hand, just draw a line down the center of your page. Remember, we start at number 20, we finish at number 27. Please number your items, and please do question on the left and question on the left, answer on the right. Okay. All right, here we go. Also, I'm not going to be spending as much time on each slide as we would in class. You can always pause the video and then restart the video based on the speed at which you are getting the information down. Okay. What I will do, though, is I will point at the camera when I'm getting ready to go to the next slide. So if you have me muted because you're listening to music or you just don't want to hear me talking, that's fine. That will tell you that you need to pause the video if you are still working on the information for that slide. All right, here we go. Do energy and matter move through the biosphere differently? Yeah. Energy in feeding relationships is unidirectional, one direction. Matter gets transformed back and forth and back and forth. So it's multi-directional. Okay, so that's one huge way that food webs and food chains differ from cycling, is they only go one way. Cycling can go back, forward, side. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. So every time you see BGC, it's going to stand for bio, living, geo, not living, chemical cycles. So elements or chemical compounds and other forms of matter move from one organism to another. Matter can cycle because biological systems transform matter. Remember, matter is just any solid, liquid, gas, plasma, anything with atoms, anything with elements is matter. All right, getting ready to hop ahead to number 22. All right, so water cycle characteristics. You can write H2O instead of water if you would like. Although water is only 5 letters and H2O is 3 characters, so you're not saving yourself a lot of time. Anyway, all living things require water to survive. We are about, if I'm not mistaken, 90% humans, at least 90% water. Pardon me. Moves between the ocean and all other liquid sources on the planet, lakes, groundwater, creeks, rivers. The atmosphere, that's what AS stands for, and the land. Molecules enter the atmosphere as water. G means gas, water vapor. When they evaporate from the ocean or other bodies of water. And also evaporation from plant surfaces. And that is called, there are a couple different ways to say it. Evapotranspiration, or just simply transpiration. Transpiration, transpiration. Transpiration is evaporation from any plant surface, and it happens so much, it got its own word. Water vapor, as it's rising up in the atmosphere, loses energy. All molecules that are above absolute zero, which I think is like negative 360 something Kelvin. Kelvin's a unit of temperature. Anyway, they vibrate. Gases, they vibrate a lot. So what happens is when these water vapor molecules start rising up into the atmosphere and it gets colder, they start vibrating less. And of course, if they're vibrating less, then they can get packed closer together and get something big. Getting smaller is called condensation. And then they lose so much energy, they switch from gas to liquid. And then they start bonding with one another. Because remember, water is polar. And they form raindrops. And if the raindrops get heavy enough for them to fall out of the sky, then it's precipitation. Rain, snow, or hail. Hail, yeah! Sorry, it was there. I had to take it. Giggle, giggle, giggle. All right, dude, you're a geek. I know I'm a geek. All right. Getting ready to hop ahead. Oh, never mind. There was still another item. I should pay attention to that. All right, so entering streams, we call that runoff. Seeps into the soil, we call that percolation. Excuse me. Percolation, percolation. And then, of course, once it gets into the soil, plants can absorb it through their roots. Okay, now I'm getting ready to hop ahead. All right, some vocab: evaporation, liquid water to water vapor or gas. Condensation is the opposite, water vapor to liquid water. Precipitation, rain, solid, snow, Graupel, which is basically I think that was the German word for sleet, which is like rain and snow mixed, kind of really wet snow. And that's simply when it falls. To precipitate means to fall out. So precipitation is any form of water falling out of the sky towards the surface. And there's that word, transpiration. All right, getting ready to hop ahead to the next slide. Unlike energy, matter is blanked within and between ecosystems. Please use this as an opportunity to go back and look some stuff up. Every minute you spend doing this is a minute you shouldn't have to study for the test, or an extra minute you can study for the test. Let's see, take a look back at number 20. Yeah, it's recycled, it's transformed, it changes within and between ecosystems. It can go both ways. It can go a whole bunch of different ways. 3 characteristics of the water cycle. If you can't remember, take a look at number 22. Yeah, so we have evaporation, gas rising up into the atmosphere. We have precipitation, water falling out of the atmosphere. We got transpiration, evaporation from plant surface. We got surface runoff, moving along the surface, getting into rivers. We have percolation, going down into the soil. That's how plants get the water into their roots. You got it. All right, hold on, let me fix this. Hold on a minute. That's better. Okay. So match them up. Take a look back at number 23. All right, so evaporation. That is B, liquid water to water vapor. Condensation, which is the opposite of evaporation. is D, water vapor to liquid water. Precipitation, A, when water falls out of the sky. And transpiration by process of elimination is C, when water enters the atmosphere from plant leaves. And it's technically any plant surface is transpiration. All right, here we go. Characteristics of nutrient cycles. All the chemical substances that an organism needs to live are nutrients. We're talking like nitrogen, phosphorus, technically, carbon dioxide. Plants need carbon dioxide and water vapor from the atmosphere to make glucose. And organisms need nutrients to build tissues and for their living processes, reactions that they need to take place inside of their bodies. Primary producers, like plants, anything that is photosynthetic is a primary producer. They usually get their nutrients from the environment, and that would be from the atmosphere. So like plants, photosynthesizers pull water vapor and carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. And they get nitrogen and phosphorus, typically from the soil. And unfortunately, consumers like me, like you, we have to get our nutrients from feeding relationships. Wouldn't it be cool if you could go sit in the sun? Oh, I'm so full, I got to go inside. Yeah, it's not that simple for us. All right, getting ready to hop ahead. All right, so carbon cycle. And you can just do capital C for carbon if you would like. All right, so photosynthesis and respiration, which is cell respiration, decomposition. They take up and release carbon and oxygen. So remember, decomposers like fungi and some algae and some bacteria, they're eating just like we are, okay? And they're respiring, which means they are using oxygen, okay, from the atmosphere, and they are producing carbon dioxide and water vapor, okay? So, that's something that happens naturally. Photosynthesis happens naturally. Cell respiration happens naturally. So these processes produce, not photosynthesis, respiration and decomposition produce carbon dioxide. Volcanism creates carbon dioxide. There are lots of things on the planet that produce carbon dioxide. So we need to look for opportunities to reduce the amount that humans put in the environment, because there's some things that you just can't change. Geochemical processes, erosion, volcanic activity, release CO2 to the atmosphere and oceans. And carbon is stored underground in the forms of dead organisms. And it gets turned into coal and oil. It takes a really long time for that to happen, and a lot of pressure from things on top to produce fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are referred to as non-renewable resources because we don't have 10,000 years to push dead stuff together to make coal. That's how long it takes. Well, I mean, there's variation in that 10,000 year statement, but it takes a really, really long time. Oh, and here's the big one. Human activities, mining, pulling stuff out of the ground, cutting down forests, burning fossil fuels. all release a ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. All right, getting ready to hop ahead to number 26. Oh, never mind. The carbon cycle and nitrogen cycles are important blank cycles. What's the word that we use to describe those cycles? You might want to take a look back at number 24. Yeah, those are nutrient cycles. Good. Two characteristics of nutrient cycles. Again, take a look at number 24. Yeah. So, all the chemical substances that organisms need to live and do their processes are considered to be nutrients. Plants, primary producers, get their nutrients from the environment. We got to get our nutrients from plants or from things that eat plants. Yeah, okay, that's good. Three characteristics of the carbon cycle. Take a look at number 25 if you're not sure. Yeah, so photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition all involve carbon and oxygen. Geochemical processes like volcanism and erosion, which is the movement of fragments, usually by streams or they get attached to organisms. Let's see, those add CO2 to the atmosphere, by the way. Carbon gets stored underground, fossil fuels. Takes tens of thousands of years for coal and oil to be produced under extreme pressure. That's why they're non-renewable resources. And lastly, human activities add a lot of carbon dioxide to the atmosphere as well. Good. All right, let's finish these up. All right, nitrogen cycle. You can just do a capital N if you would like. All organisms need nitrogen to build proteins. 78% of the atmosphere is made of nitrogen gas, but it's broken. Plants can't use that nitrogen. So nitrogen fixing bacteria in the soil can actually convert that N2 gas into ammonia, ammonium, nitrites, and nitrates. Nitrates and nitrates are the things, some of the things that are in fertilizers. It is a symbiotic, mutual relationship that these bacteria have with the plants. Legumes or beans and peas, things like that. And they live in these little pods called root nodules that are attached to plant roots of legumes. And the plants get the nitrogen that the nitrogen-fixing bacteria are producing, and the bacteria get a place to live. So that is called a symbiotic relationship, a mutualism relationship, because they both get something good out of it. When organisms die, decomposers return the nitrogen to the soil. And other bacteria convert nitrates into nitrogen gas, and that's called denitrification, or the opposite of nitrogen fixation or nitrification, which means the same thing. We're saying it again. Nitrogen fixation and nitrification are the same thing. Denitrification, obviously, is the opposite of that. It puts the nitrogen back into the atmosphere, and that's what makes it a cycle. All right, getting ready to hop ahead. You're probably pausing this. It depends. I mean, if you were just finishing up the last couple bullets, you're probably done by now. But if you were absent that day and you're writing down the entire thing, you're probably going to have to pause it. Okay, characteristics of nutrient limitation. So a couple definitions: primary productivity, rate at which organic matter is created by producers. Remember, organic matter, we're talking glucose from photosynthesis. And that makes sense. That's the first productivity. It's where everything starts. Photosynthesis. If nutrients are limited, it limits an organism's growth, or it limits the size of that population. And then we call that a limiting nutrient. And usually we're talking about nitrates, nitrites, and phosphates are big limiting nutrients. And in an aquatic ecosystem, when they get too many nutrients, you get what's called an algal bloom. And an algal bloom that was starting to happen in Lake Tahoe. And that's why you see the Keep Tahoe Blue bumper stickers. Not green, keep it blue. And it's primarily because of the developments that were happening up there. People were building lots of homes on the lakes. Lots of people were visiting there. Lots of people wash their cars. Lots of people pollute. So soaps have a lot of nitrates and phosphates in them. And when that soap gets into the ecosystem, algae eat it up, and they expand their population. You can start seeing green. So that's a problem. It's the color. But then also what happens is when the algae run out of this nutrient and they start to die, decomposers start to break down the algae by eating them. And that pulls oxygen out of the water, because to respire, to eat, we need oxygen. No, we don't need oxygen to eat. For our cells to get energy, we need oxygen. Aquatic organisms suffer because they don't have enough oxygen. So it jacks up ecosystems really badly. Okay, getting ready to hop ahead. All right, characteristics of the nitrogen cycle. Take a look back at number 26, if you can't remember. All right, so what do we got? We need nitrogen for our proteins. Nitrogen in the atmosphere, it's broken. It needs to be fixed. Certain bacteria that live in root nodules on legumes can actually fix the nitrogen and convert the nitrogen gas into nitrates and nitrites, which plants need. We have to get consumers, we have to get our nitrogen from eating things, eating plants that have nitrogen, or eating things that eat plants. Denitrification, there are bacteria that convert nitrates back into atmospheric nitrogen, hence the cycle. Organisms that die, decomposers return that organism's nitrogen to the soil. All of those characteristics. Nutrient limitation, primary productivity. Let me back up. Let you guys consider the question before I give you the answer. Patience, Paulus. Yeah, so primary productivity is basically all the glucose that gets formed from photosynthesis. If an organism has a limiting nutrient, usually nitrates or phosphates, it's going to limit their growth. So when they run out, they can't grow anymore. Also going to limit the population size, how many organisms of that species are there. And again, eutrophication, which is the scientific term for an algal bloom. Algal blooms can take place when a lot of a limiting nutrient is added to an aquatic ecosystem, and that happened in Lake Tahoe. All right, transpiration is part of what cycle is transpiration a part of? Yeah, water cycle. That's evaporation from a plant surface. Carbon is found in the atmosphere in the form of carbohydrates, carbon dioxide, calcium carbonate, or ammonia. You got it. B, carbon dioxide. Ammonia doesn't even have carbon. Ammonia is NH3. All of the others have carbon. All right. Oh, hold on a second. Oh my gosh, I just showed you the answer. My bad. Okay. Do this. All right. This is gonna go up here. I know. You're like, Paulus, you don't need to continue to do this. We already know what the answer is. Yeah, but you know what? Okay. I'm a perfectionist like that. Sorry. Okay. Let's see. Biologists describe nutrients as moving through cycles because the substances start as simple organic forms that plants need, provide building blocks and energy that organisms need, are passed between organisms and the environment and then back to the organisms, or are needed by an organism to carry out. Shoot. I should have done that one too. Life processes. All right. Of course, the correct answer is C. But then again, you already knew that. And sorry, you're going to hate me. I'm going to do this. That's better. All right. The only organisms that can convert nitrogen in the atmosphere into a form useful to living things are nitrogen-fixing. What types of organisms are those? Yeah. They're bacteria. Good. When an aquatic ecosystem receives a large input of a limiting nutrient, the result is, algal bloom. And the scientific term for that is eutrophication, EUTROPHICATION. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the notes. Don't forget to turn these in on time. And we will see you in the Zoom.